So, my friend, we are in the step number 8. And I give the title of this step number 8, Move from the false home to the real home. And in the first talk, we will have an understanding what is this false home and real home. At the outset, we can say the false home is created by ego, and the real home belongs to the real self. Ego creates false home, and real home is the real self. And we will go little deeper step by step to understand it. Why we should understand it? Because that will remove the ignorance. So what is to remove the ignorance? Means that ignorance in the false notion is covering the reality inside. It happened once that I want to start the car. I sat on the driver's seat and I start pushing the button, but the car won't start. So my mind created a false notion it may be because of the battery is discharged. But it was not so. And the guy came, I called the guy, he checked the battery, but then he realized. He sat on a driver's seat, the steering was locked. So he moved here and there, it was unlocked, and the car started. So we have a steering of our ego, the false notions that we have created, that does not offer the permanent peace and happiness in our life, and what it takes. If the mind is somewhere else, that ego sense takes the mind outside. I will be happy if I do like this. I will be happy if I grab this. I will be happy if I start working and thinking like this. I will be happy if this guy comes to my house and lives with me. Do you see that? That is the problem. So gradually, slowly, we will understand it and we will settle into that knowledge while doing the practice. Don't leave the practice. So I would start with that we normally, what is that home? First of all, home is where we find satisfaction, calm, peace. That is the meaning of actually the home. Home where you are carefree, you are comfortable, you are calm, you are in peace, and so on. So the word that we use is satisfaction, calmness. But what happens? Satisfaction by pleasure, not by pain. How can you be satisfied with pain? But do we leave any chance in our life to invite the pain directly or indirectly or from the back door? Then it will not be able to help us live into that state of permanent peace and happiness. What is satisfaction? We say normally happiness, calmness, peace, pleasure. That is what we say. I'm very happy and satisfied with my life. I'll just put the phone off. So, what is our life? How do we find? We have a momentary satisfaction. Example, I like you, and I come to you. You like me. We sit and talk, share our food and our concern, and we hug each other. We are happy at that moment. We are satisfied. And the moment we are apart from each other, my mind starts thinking of the same thing again and again, and satisfaction turns into unsatisfaction, dissatisfaction, whatever you want to say. So, are we not wasting our time while the life is continuously moving and alternating? Pain, pleasure, attachment, detachment, anxiety, hesitation, returning again to pleasure, and pleasure moves into the pain. We get involved in pleasure, pain, attachment, detachment cycle. And you see that we always try to move to the level of satisfaction, level of pleasure. But the satisfaction in the pleasure every time turns into some kind of discomfort in the pain. Is it not important to find the truth, how we are living, where we are living, what is our real home? So now coming the very first and fundamental principle. Our master says when we think, speak and work without right knowledge, can we live into the truth or the real self? The answer is no. So in order to live and speak and act out of the truth, we need right knowledge. So when we have a right knowledge about our real self, then what happens? The knowledge and the truth come together. I know, say for example, just take an example. We are proceeding to that journey step by step. Say that you know real self. You are awakened. And the real self is the truth. That is your knowledge. So the truth and the knowledge go together. Now what happens? Some event comes. And the mind is asking to get attached. Strong likes and dislikes. But the real self is already there behind, and it says to the mind, calm down. Don't get carried away by the likes and dislikes, because it will result into pain and the pleasure duo, which you call the satisfaction you have tried hundreds of times and but remain unsatisfied. So you see that? So when we live in the truth with the right knowledge, the result is always there. And what is that result? That result, that as if we are living into that state of happiness, calmness. It is, I would say, an ultimate satisfaction. But if we think and speak and act without right knowledge, can that thought, speech and action will remain truthful? No. So it is falsified. So when it is falsified, which I say, which I express in my daily life, I hate. I have tried many a times to help you, but you don't listen to me. and because by helping others I am unhappy. So there is an unsatisfaction. Even mind plan to be happy and satisfied by helping others, near ones. See that? We need to explore. We need to understand. We need to explore the mind, the way it behaves, the way it prompts me to act in my daily life. And our great master Krishna gives some ideas, some thoughts to ponder upon in order to reach to that state. So our topic is from moving from the false home to the real home. So I have just explained about the false home, a repeated cycle. Pain, pleasure, attachment, detachment, likes, dislikes, reaction, response, pleasure, pain, and the cycle continues. So what happens? We feel, I can be happy and satisfied if I do this. I will be happy and satisfied if I help a guy like this, or if I withdraw myself. So all kind of thoughts and wrong notions continues. That is the false home in which we live. I believe you are getting it. The step 8 includes all the previous 7 steps. The way we think, the way we speak, the way we respond, the way we act, the way we build our relationship, everything comes here. So the Master Krishna, who is the originator of the Eastern wisdom, who gives us beautiful understanding. The first he says, Yatu Atmarati Aiva Syat Atma Traptaha Chamanava. He is not talking of any religion, dogma, belief, and cult. He says, O human being, are you satisfied with yourself? Are you satisfied in yourself? Are you satisfied to yourself? You see that satisfaction, peace, and happiness? In that moment of satisfaction, no thought, no speech, no action, no hurry, not running, you're happy. So Master is saying, the ultimate satisfaction you can find in real home. And that real home is the real self. So ask yourself, are you satisfied with yourself? Yes. Where is the problem then? No, the guy is creating a problem. My son or my brother or my sister or my honey is creating a. When I'm satisfied with myself, why my mind is going there? So I make that relationship as my home, where I expect something from others, and that causes the problem. So I start living in a false home. I'm justifying the title so that you will understand again and again. We are discovering and exploring what is our real home. So the Master says, maintain my awareness. Am I happy with myself? Am I satisfied in myself? Am I satisfied with myself? Am I satisfied to myself? If I am not, then this mind and the ego sense is looking for something outside to get satisfaction. one thing is very clear, that anything outside leads to pleasure. Pleasure is short-lived, and it ultimately moves towards pain. Attachment moves towards detachment. Have you not seen your mind? You love your son, you help him, and the time came, then you said to me once that no, now enough is enough. I'm not going to help my son. You see, attachment, detachment. Again, detachment after some time goes to attachment. Detachment. So sometime you feel happy, satisfied with attachment. Sometime you feel happy and satisfied with detachment. This is what happens with everything, object, and people in the world outside. That is not our real home. So the master is saying, are you happy, satisfied with yourself? Are you happy and satisfied with yourself, my friend? So when I am happy and satisfied with myself, so what is this self, myself? This is the real self which we have been talking and understanding and practicing. Satisfaction. What is this satisfaction? Peace, happiness, love, wisdom, all together. That is what the satisfaction. I know I am satisfied. I know I am satisfied with myself. I know I am in peace, hence I am satisfied. You see that satisfaction contains inner peace and happiness, love and wisdom. So the master is saying, if you are satisfied with your real self, or if you awaken to the real self, that is our real home, then we are definitely satisfied with ourselves. And where the real self lives, within me. Who is ever satisfied? Who knows the real self? Where it is within me. When it is available, 24/7. How it is made available? By self-discovery. That is what we are going step by step. Is attachment available 24/7? Is detachment available 24/7? Is pleasure available 24/7? All comes from outside, either with an object or an event or a person. You told me you went to send me some pictures. You went to Prescott. You were enjoying. So enjoying means satisfaction. Now ask yourself, I want to recall and live into that state of satisfaction, the days and the event that I spent in Prescott. Is it possible? Can you recall? And even if you can recall in your thought and ideas, can you live into that state of satisfaction? So the master is saying, what the master is saying, my friend, that am I satisfied with myself? Means I need to discover the real self and then allow the real self to manifest and to express in thought, speech and action. Then I found my real home. And when I found my real home, there is no way, no one, nothing can dare me to live in pain and reaction and anger and anxiety and unsatisfaction. This is the first principle taught to the seeker by our Master Krishna. Another principle, naiva tasya kutena artha. I'm speaking Sanskrit. I like to recite it, so it gives a, it vibrates into my brain. Na kratena ihi kanchana, na cha asya sarvabhuteshu kaschit arth vyapashraya. Now, from once you understand, and you clearly understand that the real self is the real home, I am satisfied with my real self, I am satisfied in my real self, and I am satisfied to my real self, then what action I need to take in order to acquire pleasure from outside and acquire satisfaction from outside? So whether I perform any action or whether I do not perform any action with an intention to seek pleasure, it has no meaning at all, because I am satisfied with myself. You see that when the real self is known, we think, speak, and act like play. Like play by performing our duties 24/7. Do you recall the second step? It is natural movement in life. I'm talking to you. I'm giving a lesson. I'm performing my duty as a mentor and a teacher. And once that role is done, finished. But now performing this action, this role of a mentor and a guide, I am doing out of happiness. It is not that I'm speaking because I feel that I'm at a higher level than you, and then I get some pleasure and satisfaction. This pleasure and satisfaction will push me into the false home. But if I am expressing and guiding and mentoring you out of the happiness, I'm expressing that happiness in the very action. So what happens? Then I'm performing my duties all the time, whatever it is, wherever it is, because of happiness, not for the sake of happiness. So I'm already satisfied within myself and doing my daily chores, whatever is required. You perform your role in your job, in your place of work. You perform your role in your relations. You perform your role at your house as a duty to be done with satisfaction already present inside. So when there is a satisfaction already present inside, my action will not be overburdened to seek any satisfaction. You paid to your son, finished, forget it. You have done your duty, finished. Now you don't want to pay, don't pay it, finished. You are satisfied with it. Are you getting it? It is very important. Once you get that soul of this principle, the life becomes the joy of conscious living. So this master says, we realize permanent happiness cannot be gained by any action done or no action is done. You stop paying your son, are you satisfied with it? You pay to your son, satisfaction is still present inside. Action is not related to that satisfaction and dissatisfaction. If that is the state you live in, you have found your real home. Our topic is moving from the false home to the real home. Why? The real self does not depend on any thought, any speech, any action, any event to cause permanent happiness, wisdom, abundance of love. You're performing your duty. You are a mom, for example. You see your son, hug, care, share, not for the sake of peace and happiness, because it is already there within you. So, no attachment, no detachment, no pain, no pleasure is the outcome. But You are already expressing peace and happiness. No expectation. Are you getting it? So just imagine we are performing all our actions as we need to do, not for happiness, but for the sake of just plain performing your duty. Do you go to the restroom while thinking, have an expectation, I will get immense pleasure? No. No ego sense is attached. That is what I explained in the beginning. The ego sense creates a false home. And that's why going to the restroom, okay, it's a kind of a duty that I need to do it in order to keep my physical, mental, and emotional well-being. Finished. Mind is free from the likes and dislikes. To eat and not to eat has nothing to do with the likes and dislikes, nothing to do with attachment and detachment. Duty, we do it. To wake up in the morning has nothing to do with the likes, dislikes, attachment. Oh, that is the way, I have realized. Why? Because the life is made up of waking, dreaming, sleeping states. Once you understand, first principle, satisfied within. Second principle, once I am satisfied, it means no thought, speech, and action is burdened with an expectation of satisfaction, peace, and happiness. So it does not mean that I stop doing action. I'm doing everything the way I have been doing before. Now I am doing with a free mind to find my real home, my friend. Tasmat asakta satatam karyam karma samachara. I told you I like to. Asakta hi acharan karma paradapanoti purusha. So it means what? Now, what is the result of these two principles? First principle, I am satisfied within myself. So I have no expectation outside. So when I don't have any expectation outside, I am performing all my actions that I need to do as a duty, as a responsibility. So what disappears in the mind? The attachment disappears, the detachment disappears. The idea that someone will cause pain and pleasure also disappears. Can you imagine that state of the mind is always free? You're always smiling and laughing inside, full of energy and peace and love and wisdom. Means what? We start living in higher consciousness. What is that higher consciousness? That is where the real self lies. What is the real self? That is our real home. So then you realize and experience there is neither an attachment nor a detachment, neither likes nor dislikes. You think and speak and act to live your life, and the real self within expresses peace, beauty, happiness, love, wisdom all time in life. What is ultimate satisfaction? It is present everywhere. It is present in all the time. It lives in all relations. It lives at workplace, at home, not only in the restroom, in the kitchen, in communication, in thought, in speech and action. How come that possible? Because the real self cannot be taken away from me. I am real self. So how the I can take away the I? So real self is our real home. Body lives in the physical home. You have a beautiful home. So the real self, the body lives in the physical home. The mind, if it lives in its home, that is the home of calmness. The intellect lives in the wisdom. The ego lives in the real self. We have found our real home, and that leads to change our attitude, behavior, and action in our daily life. Our topic is moving from the false to the real home. We cherish false home because of that is made up of ego. And the same ego destroys us. Same ego appears to build us, but that ego is dependent on event, people, object, including body, breath, mind, life. So that ego constantly triggers the body to be on the run. The mind is constantly wandering with full of expectations and attachment and detachment, and the intellect is destroyed. No wisdom is there, and we live a life of stress and suffering. Whether we are able to control it from outside, we are holding outside, we are burning inside. The house, our false home, is always on fire. Our topic is to move from the false to the real home. Let us understand, is the real self real home or something else? Why I say the real self is truth. So what happens when we find the real self? It means I have a right knowledge about who am I. Right knowledge about what? About the real self. And what is the real self? It is the truth. So the truth and the knowledge become one. Where the truth and the knowledge become one. Truth about yourself, your entity, your true nature I'm talking about. I'm not talking about the truth in court. You hire a lawyer, he makes the false as a truth and the truth is a false. Depends on the capability. We are not talking of that twisting. Twisting means wrong knowledge. Wrong knowledge will falsify the truth. So I'm told, do we speak truth with the right knowledge or wrong knowledge? So if I live my life with the wrong ideas, wrong knowledge, wrong notion, that real self will be veiled behind my ego sense. Wrong knowledge is attachment, pleasure-seeking mind, obsession, anxiety, anger. Truth becomes false. What that means, truth becomes false? It becomes incomplete knowledge. And incomplete knowledge causes suffering. We have to find the real home. No option available. We have to find the real home, and that is why we have reached to the step number 8 with the practice. Now see the opposite. Do you recall that I told you the thought is nothing but object plus I am? But if this I am goes with the wrong knowledge, then it also perceives the object wrongly. How it perceives the object falsely? It perceives the object person as a means for pleasure and satisfaction. So it means this I am has a wrong I, false I. It will perceive the object for the sake of pleasure and satisfaction. Then what happens? The truth becomes inert, material, matter. Wrong knowledge does not sustain forever. So whatever does not live forever is not the real nature. So it is a matter, because matter is constantly changing. And whatever is changing is matter. Whatever is matter is inert. So this matter does not know itself, and the matter does not know others. That is why I say, when this real self appears as inert or matter, then it causes lot of problem. I freeze down with anger, I freeze down with attachment, I freeze down with idea of a reaction and obsession. My son, you must change. Son is not at all thinking, contemplating and reflecting. I had a wonderful friend in New Jersey, and she was saying, she is well-to-do, and she is single now, 88, 89 years old, and she has enough money to sustain. She has been paying almost $3,000 to $4,000 towards the mortgage of his son. And the value of that house for which the mortgage is being paid is already very high. He is not getting any means to get it refinanced because of bad debt. After 5 years, the cost of that house will drop by almost 40%. At present, it is maybe 4.5, 4,500, 4,000, 405. What do you say? Almost around 500,000. Now she asked me, I'm taking a reverse mortgage on my house to pay the entire amount. So that house will belong to ultimately my son. So I raise all those questions. I simply asked her, are you moving with the right knowledge? So reverse mortgage, it means you have a liability towards your house. You are creating another liability by paying the entire mortgage of your son. And after 5 years, that house will cost less whatever you are going to pay. Is it a right decision? Or it is driven by the ego sense by which you may feel you will be happy and satisfied. But how long that satisfaction will remain? You see, so these principles work in every activity of our life, in day-to-day life, in my personal, in my professional, in my social, in my family life. We are understanding moving from the false to the real home. As long as we live into the false home, there is bound to be unsatisfaction. Then I asked her, can you tell me, does your house gives you happiness or does his house gives him happiness? It cannot, because the house is inert. It is not conscious. Only conscious being experience happiness and wisdom and love. And that consciousness comes from the real self. I have to seek satisfaction in myself rather than paying the debt or taking a right decision. I just suggested, is it possible that your son and the family starts living in your house? Yes, it is totally empty. So in that process, get rid of that house and let him live there. And after a few years, let them plan, think of it, so that they can have their own house. At least they will get rid of the bad debt. I'm just talking with reference to the principle. You may have another better option, but principle remains the same. Right knowledge with reference to the real self gives me the ultimate satisfaction. Same thing I have been talking, the pasta gives me happiness means what? The happiness is in the pasta, but it is material. Anything that is inert does not contain happiness. And the ego is always linked to everything that is material. Body, mind, breath, intellect, ego, wealth. So if we separate right knowledge from the truth, it will become momentary and it will be lost. That is the journey of pain, pleasure, likes, dislikes, reaction, resistance, happiness, sorrow. True and permanent happiness cannot be there. Same example, pasta contains happiness? No. It is truth, but mind claims happiness in pasta. Why? Because of wrong notion. Why? Because it builds an ego. And then we found the false self, false home, and the false home is the home of cycle of birth, death, pain, pleasure, likes, dislikes, reaction, anger, hesitation, unsatisfaction, satisfaction, momentary. Can I find permanent happiness there? The answer is no and not at all. But mind has made real home to secure happiness in people, things, objects outside in the world. We have made our false home. We claim it is a real home. Is the cause of suffering. We have to find the real home. We need to search the real home where happiness, truth, consciousness, feelings are permanent. Once you can declare ultimate satisfaction, where? Here and now. When? All the time. In which thought? Every thought. In which action? Every action. Because it is already behind it. That is the journey of the self-discovery. That is why we are into the step number 8. But after all, we get satisfaction in many things in the world. No doubt we get it. We get it. So are you saying we should leave all the satisfaction that we get outside? I'm not saying that. I'm just saying to understand it. Understand it. Whether there is a satisfaction there or not. Pleasure is there, pain is there. Momentary pleasure, momentary happiness is there. A very beautiful principle, again discussed by our great master. He says we get satisfaction in 3 categories. Outside, in our daily life. As a human being. And he named it Rati, Trapti, Tushti. Rati means pleasure, physical pleasure, or any other kinds of pleasure between man and the women, between the opposite gender. No doubt, we all have that experience of physical pleasure. One is the ultimate satisfaction with the real self. But because we have not found it, because we are burdened by the false home, that is the ego sense, hence, this mind finds the satisfaction in three types of activities. The first activity is known as rati. Rati means the physical kind of a pleasure of touch, any touch, not only the physical pleasure or the sexual pleasure. Shirt, how good feeling. Goggles, car. Second kind of pleasure by eating food. That is, that satisfaction is known as trapti. Third is tushti. That is also satisfaction. Pleasure by accumulating movable and immovable assets in our life. Something is necessary. I'm not saying. We are just understanding. Physical pleasure, pleasure by eating, or different kinds of food, smell, fragrance, taste. My son used to take me to New York when I was living in New Jersey. It was almost 40-45 minutes drive to eat some special food there, which is sold by the street vendor in front of a star hotel, that he has been doing it for the last almost 25 years. I forgot the name of that food. And you see that 45 minutes of going, 45 minutes of returning in the night, spending another half an hour. Satisfaction. So you see that I am not saying that you should not do this. I am saying to understand it, that I should not burden my mind with an ego sense that pleasure, satisfaction, happiness are outside. I am only saying we normally experience pleasure that we claim as a happiness, but the real self is the home of true happiness. So now see that once you discover the true happiness inside, you found the real home, go to New York or any place. Now you are not going to secure happiness. Okay, momentary pleasure will be there, but happiness is already inside. If there is an opportunity, there are resources, there is no compulsion, there is no force. The mind is not dying with a hunger that if I don't get this food, I will be miserable. The mind is calm. Go. Get it. That is very important. Real self contains all the three within ourselves, all the three factors. What are the three factors? Ultimate satisfaction gives you a sense of independence, freedom from the objects, people, and the things. That is what the real satisfaction is. Can anyone outside give me the true happiness? The answer is no. Any object, any food. We claim and think that as we get happiness from others, if something from outside will give me pleasure, it is not possible. Once we discover our real self in the real home, we find all the three kinds of happiness from the real self. This is what the Master is concluding. Are we aware that the true happiness is right knowledge with the consciousness? So if the pasta does not or the food does not have the consciousness, it is inert, it does not mean it is not possible that contains happiness or satisfaction. The same thing applies to the car or the big house or the mansion, etc., etc. Now all the three are within us. The real self is within me, consciousness is within me, happiness is within me. I will be happy and satisfied if once I find the real self within, the real home within. My master used to say that happiness is your essential nature. That very happiness, that very satisfaction is my real nature. What is that real nature? Real nature of a sugar is sweetness. Either it is in the form of a candy, or it is in the form of a dessert, or it is in the shape of an ice cream. Sweetness is there. The real self contains that sweetness 24/7, forever, all the time, in any event, in any thought, in any speech, in any action. That is our real home. But it is distorted by the mind by wrong knowledge, wrong ideas, wrong notion. And that wrong knowledge and ideas and the wrong notion excites the mind to search satisfaction outside. Calculate how much you have paid to your son to help him. And then made two columns. One column, how much you have paid, how much you have used your emotion. And the other column, find out the percentage of satisfaction you have. I can tell you, you can instantly find out nil, not, zero satisfaction. Doesn't mean that you should not help. I'm just explaining this. So satisfaction is within me. The real home is the real self. I have to discover that. I have to drop the false home. So when I drop the false home, now again you have dropped the false home. Now the sun is coming, meeting. So based on the circumstances and event and the changes and the reaction, you take a decision. So sometimes you pay, sometimes you don't pay to help him. So it does not depend on paying someone, not paying someone. Wrong knowledge excites the mind to search pleasure outside, satisfaction outside. Rati with the physical pleasure, trapti with the food, and the tushti by accumulating possessions. Why the mind is wandering? I'm picking up another simple principle. Whenever you see that your mind is wandering, it is reacting, it is in anxiety, it is in duality, you are frustrated, you feel heaviness, it is because the mind is searching either one or all the three kinds of the pleasure outside in the world. Just become aware, alert. Now I have to return to my own home. Once you become aware, you shake off your head and say, no, I have to return to my home. Instead of searching, the satisfaction and the happiness outside in the world, you will find out the very shaking raises your awareness. You remember the ultimate satisfaction is inside, and the mind will be absorbed into a meditative state. Then you are no longer a doer and the enjoyer of any kind of satisfaction that falsely comes from the world outside. The doer and the enjoyer is created by the ego. Ego is always running, exhausted, it reacts, it resists, it fights, it experiences duality of pain and the pleasure and the fatigue. And if you want to find out that ego, the ego is nowhere else except the real self. Except the real self. It is a good practice. Once you understand all these principles, keep these rules, simple principles in your mind, that ultimate satisfaction is within me. So ultimate satisfaction is within me, that reveals the real home, and that is the real self. So I need not to perform any action, or I need not to stop any action for the sake of securing peace and happiness and satisfaction outside. So I should not act. No, I should continue to do my duty and responsibility in my daily life. Whatever is best, I need to perform that in a best possible manner. So outside, you are performing your duty without the burden of expecting any kind of satisfaction and the pleasure outside. Why? Because you are already satisfied inside. You have the peace within. You are expressing that peace and happiness in every thought, speech, and action. Your voice becomes softer, convincing. It melts even the hardest of the heart outside in your relations at workplace, but it will take some time. And at the same time, the mind becomes totally pure. It does not swayed by the likes, dislikes, anger, hesitation, reaction, resistance. Why? Because we have left the false home. What is that false home? The false home is the home of the ego, subtle ego. It works. I paid you, why don't you listen to me? You did wrong, that is why I'm not paying you. Both have the contents of the ego sense. Is built upon likes and dislikes, pleasure and pain, attachment and detachment, and that continues the cycle. And that cycle prevents us to enter into our real home. This is our understanding of the real home. And then we will understand in the next session what are the applications so that our life enters into beauty, wisdom, love, happiness. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. My friend, listen to it again and again.